Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. Today I want to call this lesson racism versus rulership, because I think that brothers and sisters in the knowledge, they kind of put these two things together, which causes a lot of confusion. And we really don't separate these things, so it's kind of hard to understand the world around us. And I heard this brother here that we see on the screen. His name is Anton Daniels. I'm not 100% familiar with the brother, but I do know that he posts content on YouTube that I believe is more on the quote unquote red pill side. If you're not familiar with that, essentially is a lot of brothers, talking about talking about how this society favors women and how brothers should move around it pretty much, which is not a lie in itself. But at the same time, the scriptures ain't dealing with red pill, man. All right, red pill in the scriptures, blue pill, black pill, whatever pill. Okay, all you got is the truth. You should not be focusing on women and all this other stuff. Claim they're not this or that, but make channels focus on them. But anyways, not to say that our women are not going off. That's a whole nother issue, though. Let's talk about that at a separate time. But either way, Anton Daniels here, he made some statements that from the social media page that I saw, where I got this to even do this from, a lot of people were upset because he said, and I'm just paraphrasing here, we're about to let him say it, but he essentially said that he doesn't believe that there is any institutionalized or quote unquote systemic racism in the United States of America. Now, my perspective on it is, yes, of course there is, but there is also an element there that you do have to understand, because what I believe he's getting at is not so much of the racism element from a standpoint of, do so-called white people hate niggas and stuff like that. That can't be debated, because you still have sundown towns today. Sundown towns meaning where so-called black people are still being hung, especially in a lot of places in middle America. Racism is alive and well. That's not really something that, we have to go back and forth about. However, at the same time, what I believe he's saying is that in this current society, you have so many different opportunities to, do whatever you want to do from a standpoint of any type of career you want to pursue, any type of business you want to start, so on and so forth. You do have those opportunities now that we did not have in the 60s. So when you hear systemic racism, some people take that as, oh, well, since I'm black, I can't do this or that. A lot of times they won't say that explicitly like that, but I'm telling you, that's the energy. That's a lot of people dealing with that. And then the reason I'm bringing this up is because us, if you're in the knowledge, like I am, or at least I claim to be, it's a man striving for the Most High's own heart. But either way, if you're in the knowledge, then you understand that, you understand certain things. And a lot of us, we come into this conflict when it comes to finances. And that's why I want to touch on this, because we come to this conflict of, we know the society is going to end according to the scriptures. We know this is Babylon. We know that it's all, bull at the end of the day. The money system, credit system, whatever the case is, it's all nonsense at the end of the day. So what do? Or do you still strive to be the best person that you can be? Or since this society is going to fall and it feels like it can crumble at any minute, do we just not even worry about money like that? Let me just get just enough. I got enough to eat and all that. Should I worry about buying a nice watch, a nice vehicle, staying in a nice house, whatever the case? These are a lot of things that brothers and sisters in the knowledge have conflict with, and we all tie it to, well, not all of us, but a lot of brothers and sisters tied to, different things like quote unquote systemic racism, which if we talking about it from a scriptural standpoint, just, the rulership, we're not in rulership. Our people are not in rulership. So we understand that, but what do we do with it? So I just want to provide my perspective on that because I think it's a pressing issue. It's all good and all to understand the scriptures and break down the scriptures and, know the scriptures and different breakdowns of it. But when it comes to everyday life, we have to discuss these things, man. A lot of brothers and sisters, man, they can break down. Well, a lot of brothers, they can break down the scriptures to a T. They know all the dark sayings, but they don't really know how to conduct themselves in real life when it comes to choosing a woman, when it comes to being a provider monetarily. They don't really know what's going on. That's all part of the same thing. We know that there were a lot of men in the scriptures that did not have any physical possessions. I mean, Yahushua wasn't worried about it. However, there was a lot of men that did all at the same time. So it depends on your lot and everything. But at the same time, you should not look at this as, I'm going off if I want a better job. I'm going off if I want to start a business and operate it. That's what you should be doing. All right. The only line is if you're breaking the statute, laws, and commandments. That's the only line. Outside of that, as long as you ain't going off, it's all good. It's all good. Whatever you want to do, you should be pursuing it. If you have the attitude of, okay, well, this society is going to end, so, I don't want to focus on this. I'm just going to read and study. I mean, you can do that, but you also can say the same thing in life in itself. You're going to die. So you just at, 12 years old, 15, 18 years old, say, well, I'm going to die anyway, so let me not even get a job. That's how you sound when you say the society is going to end, therefore let me not do this or that. Because at the end of the day, too, we don't know when society is going to end. It feels like it can crumble at any minute. It feels like we only got 5 to 10 years, 15 years left sometimes, maximum 20. Yeah, it feels like that. I know the way things moving, but we have no idea. It could be another 100 years, another 1,000. We don't know when Christ is coming back. So that's another energy that you protruding, is that when Yahushua coming back. You trying to, in real estate, they call it, time in the market. You trying to time Yahushua's return, and we can't do that because we have no idea when Yahushua is coming back. Okay, so you can't really move on that. Now, when certain things happen in society, they start shutting down bank accounts and freezing assets. That's a different story. But until then, it is, especially as us as so-called black men, it is our responsibility to provide for our families, whether it's just you providing for yourself. You got a woman, it's you and your woman, or you got kids, you and your kids, or it's your whole family, you, your woman, and your kids, or women, depending on the brother. Whatever the case, it is our responsibility to do that, and we should not be making excuses like quote unquote institutional racism and systemic racism and the curses. We under the curses. Yeah, we are, but that's as a people. You're not under the curses if you accept and believe in Yahushua. So that's in Galatians 3rd chapter. But let's see what he says here and kind of analyze it. Let's see what this brother's bringing out here. Anton Daniels. Let's see.
A good person and try to say that she lesser of a person than the motherfucker that tried to carjack me? That's crazy.
Well, that's a beautiful story. From all the motherfuckers they finessed before they got to you.
How? Ain't nobody that's alive today that was a part of slavery.
Huh?
Ain't not one person alive today that was a part of slavery. No.
Now, even though that's a true statement, I know that hearing that, a lot of people will get mad, but it is a true statement. You just have to have that in context. Yeah, it's true, but that doesn't mean that everyone is so-called free today, because we are still in slavery and in bondage spiritually and mentally as a people. But brothers like this, they don't understand that because they're in a more Christian route, especially a conservative Christian route, where they believe that, oh, well, everything is all good now just because you can start a business. No, that don't mean everything is all good. Our people are still in shackles. We still had a yoke of iron on our necks. However, you just don't have that physically. So you do have to keep that in mind all at the same time. So what he said is true, but just remember the context that, even though we are in spiritual and mental slavery, that does not stop you from a physical standpoint. And you should, pursue whatever career or business that you want to pursue. You should still do that, regardless of what's going on. Myself, I've been a business owner for, I want to say full time, it's going on like 5 years, I want to say. Yeah, it's going on 5 years full time. Meaning that I do not have a job, a traditional job. The income and revenue that I produce comes from a business that I created. And I can tell you firsthand through all this time that it's one of the best decisions that, I ever made as far as starting a business. It's made me build to be a better man, and not just, in the scriptures, which is the most important, but also just understanding the world and understanding how people are, and girding my loins, man, because it just makes you a tougher person, especially when you've been through some ups and downs. It really does. And I have certain time freedoms that, other brothers and sisters might not have. And when certain things come out like the vaccine, I'm not forced to take it. There's different advantages to it. But, in this, again, we got to talk about these things because we can only talk about the scriptures, and that's cool and all. But when it comes to applying the scriptures and dealing with, finances and things like that, brothers and sisters, a lot of times they be slack. So that's why I want to talk about these things and, provide my perspective on it. But back to the point of racism here, or, no one is alive from slavery. That's true. But let's see what else he had to say. Let's see.
No, for sure.
Most of these motherfuckers that's claiming that they done been through something may never experience no racism in their life.
I think that's true too. Yeah, I do. But let's keep going. I'm not saying that I'm all the way with them. I'm not saying none of that, or racism is not alive. It is 100%. So don't get the wrong idea. But just from that one statement itself, that does happen to be true. Do know a lot of brothers and sisters that, they more living through someone else than their own experiences when it comes to quote unquote racism. But I live in Alabama, so my experience is different. But even living here in itself, that doesn't mean you automatically gonna be more susceptible to racism than if you live in a liberal state like California or something. Matter of fact, I just talked to a brother that we believe he had a racist experience, and he lives in California. But anyways, let's keep going.
But I guess it's the systemic part that we still.
What's systemic about it?
Systemic racism?
Hmm? Tell me what's systemic about it. I don't see it.
Wait, did they change? What's the thing where you got to hire a certain amount of colored people or whatever?
That's racist in itself.
Yeah, I know.
Affirmative action?
Affirmative action, yeah.
That's racist.
There's some companies that's pulling that back.
Affirmative action is racist. Well, I really don't have a problem with affirmative action for real, but I believe I was a recipient of it. One of the first corporate jobs I had, I was the only so-called black, well, I was about to say black man, but either, so-called black person there, period. I was the only one that was there in the whole office. And I truly believe, seeing that the person that replaced me was also so-called black, I do believe that I was an affirmative action hire. But I mean, it's all good. I benefited from it, so you know, I ain't really tripping. So there are certain things that you do benefit from in the society, as being a so-called black man or woman. Does it outweigh the racism? Absolutely not. Again, you got sundown towns, you have um, different things like that. But we're going to talk more about rulership here in a minute too, because that's what this brother fails to realize. But there is a huge difference. Okay, there's a huge difference between racism and rulership. That's why brothers and sisters in the knowledge still be talking about quote unquote white supremacy. When you understand rulership, you shouldn't be walking around talking about no white supremacy. I even heard a brother say Edomite supremacy, just making up a new term, Edomite supremacy. There's no supremacy. Like, they just in rulership. That's why they do the things they do. You're always going to treat your own people, uh, preferentially treat your own people versus other nations. That's just always how it's going to be. I mean, a nation is a family of people. Okay, it's an extended family. Maybe not blood relation, but you're a family. Even the scriptures say that. You know, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Genesis 12:3. It's talking about the nation of Israel. All right. It's nothing but a big family. And sometimes you'll see the northern and the southern kingdom being listed as the two families, like in the book of Jeremiah. Okay. And you'll never, and I'm bringing that up to say, you'll never treat your family the same as you'll treat a stranger, right? Especially family that you know, love, and trust, that's been proven. You're always going to treat them better than you're going to treat a stranger. We're strangers in this land. So you shouldn't expect to be treated preferentially. And once you understand that, you just move out the way. You don't worry about no quote unquote white supremacy. And that's a problem with our people. We getting the knowledge even, and we still worried about what so-called white people doing and how they treating people. Of course, I'm not advocating for, you know, any wrongdoing or nothing like that, but I'm not disappointed when I see it from a standpoint of my expectations were anything else than what I see. Because you only get disappointed when you have a certain expectation and it's not met. Okay, when I see a dog bark, I'm not disappointed because I expect dogs to bark. When you see a so-called white man or woman having preferential treatment against their own people, that's not something that should surprise you. But our people, we still end up getting surprised for whatever reason. It's a difference between racism and rulership. Just keep that in mind. That's the whole point. But let's keep going and see what the brother's saying.
They're saying, hey,
Yeah, they did away with it. Largely.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court did away with affirmative action.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Supreme Court.
yeah, I'm like, let's get
That's racist in itself. That means that you're not getting in on your merits. You're getting in based off of the fact that they had to include you. I know so many people that got into college.
And another thing about racism is, you know, I don't really care if a so-called white man or any other nation, I don't care if they're racist. Me personally, I don't care. As long as you don't do anything to me or mine, and of course, I care about my people too. So as long as you're not doing nothing to us from a physical standpoint, anything that affects me, I do not care who you like or who you prefer, or if you think your race is more superior, because I do. According to scripture, if you read Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, verse 6 on down, it says that the children of Israel are above all nations on the planet Earth. So, therefore, I believe that my race of people are superior. That's my belief system. So if someone believes the same based on their book, the Quran, or whatever they subscribe to, I do not care as long as they don't get in my way, get in my people way. I do not care. You know, that's another thing. I always trip out when I see people, when I see our people care about what other nations think. Like, why do you care about what people think about you? You know, that's really a different level of insecurity when you care about what people think about you. Yeah, just in general. You know, but you talking about affirmative action as racist. Yeah, yeah, I guess whatever, man. It's not it is what it is on that. Let's keep going.
based off of the fact that they was a part of a diversity, equity, and inclusion program, and they flunked the fuck out.
Right. We got to put you in
They
here.
couldn't even.
So you don't believe in systemic racism?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's too much money for it to be a systemic racist.
See, these are two different things. So what he's saying from a standpoint of, he said it's too much money. So it's true that, again, you have the opportunities to be able to do whatever you want to do in this society. That's 100% true. For the most part, at least. You know, you at least have an opportunity to do it. Doesn't mean that you won't have to work harder than someone else, but you at least have the opportunity to do it for the most part. However, that's different from rulership. A lot of these people don't want to acknowledge that we do not own anything in this society. We did not create it. We did not own it. We don't own the school system. Therefore, we cannot control what the public school system teaches our children. Okay, we don't own the entertainment industries. We don't even own the materials that our clothes are made with. We don't own any of the major clothing companies. We don't own the food here, so we can't control, you know, the supply chain when it comes to that. That's what comes with rulership. Okay, and that's where the so-called racism comes from. Because if our people were in rulership, you know, especially the righteous rulership, then we would not even serve, you know, shrimp, crab, and lobsters and all these other things, mussels and oysters and pork, the swine. We would not be serving these things at all. But since this brother has a Christian mindset, he doesn't really, you know, understand that or don't know or don't understand it, or he acting like he don't know it. Either way, you know, that's what it is on that. But for us, so I'm just talking about from his perspective, but for us, what I want us to understand is that even though that's true, everything I just stated, even though that's all true, you have to keep in mind that he has a point too. You know, you cannot let what we deem to be quote unquote systemic racism, you cannot let that be an excuse for you not to get busy. Okay, to do what you got to do in this society to make things happen. If you want a certain vehicle and you want to work towards it or whatever the case, then do it. Of course, not putting yourself in debt or nothing like that. I'm just using that as an example. You want a new house, or you plan on having children and you want to build up a certain nest just to, you know, make sure you can provide for your child, then why not? Again, as long as you're not breaking the statute, laws, and commandments. So again, he does have a point from a surface level. You know, I took it a little bit deeper when I was talking about rulership and different things we don't own. But again, he does have a singular point. Just keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying here. I'm not saying that racism don't exist or nothing like that. So don't, you know, don't take it the wrong way. But he does have a singular point. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
It's too much money. Listen, the biggest racist that I've ever seen in my life was in y'all living rooms. Go and put a camera inside of a black living room and see what grandpapa and grandmama is talking about. No. They got some of the wildest takes that I've ever seen in my entire life.
No.
I mean, we all do that. That's not singular to so-called black people. So-called white people do the same thing. They mock us and, you know, say nigger and all that stuff. That's no different. So I ain't really with them on that point at all. But let's keep going.
Nah, for real, we're like, is that racist? Dad, are you racist?
And we just overlook it like it's no big deal.
No,
right? Listen, I don't believe in systemic racism in the United States of America. It's too many people getting too much money.
See, he's only relating racism to your ability to make money, but he's not considering the rulership aspect. And that's where a lot of our people, they don't get it. They so used to the so-called white man being in rulership that they see that's life to them. You know, especially when you have the indoctrination of so-called whites ruling in Europe. They believe that so-called white people pretty much have always ruled. So therefore, they think this is how life is supposed to be. Life is not supposed to be the way that it is. Now, we're not supposed to be struggling and working so hard just to make ends meet for the most part. And if you want to succeed in society and have a surplus, it's not supposed to be as hard. Okay. However, seeing that we have so much debt and interest in the money system is just completely out of whack. It completely throws everything off in the society. Okay. And that's that's what makes it so hard to get ahead. However, at the same time, just because it's hard, it's 100% possible. And, pretty much anyone with a good head on their shoulders that's focused can make it happen. Let me say it like this. It says here he's a DECA millionaire. I believe that's pretty much anyone that has accumulated. I know DECA is a prefix for 10. So if I'm not mistaken, that pretty much means that this brother here, his net worth or whatever the case is, 10 million or above. If I'm not mistaken, you can accumulate $1 million in a society, at least from a net worth standpoint, or I mean, not only net worth, but you can accumulate that in cash. You can accumulate that in net worth in society and still be keeping the statute, laws, and commandments. Okay. And he's not referring to the statute, laws, and commandments, but he's still in his mind, at least from what he's saying here, unless he's lying, in his mind, he's saying, well, you can get money in society. So how is there any racism here? So he has a point from that standpoint. So again, let me just try to be clear here. I have two things going at one time. So I just want to be clear here. Do I agree that there's no systemic racism? Absolutely not. I do not agree with that. It's proven. It doesn't make any sense to say that. But do I think he has a point when he's relating this to your ability to generate income or generate money in society? Yes, I do believe that. Okay, so there's two different things going on. Spiritually, that's a whole different story too, because we are still in bondage spiritually. There is quote unquote systemic racism, if you want to use that term, because we're not in rulership from a spiritual or physical standpoint. But he does have a point that you cannot let that be an excuse to just be a loser. Let me just say it how it is. There's brothers that don't work because they claim they just in the scripture so hard. And sisters that just kind of just doing nothing too. Like, no. Like, you still supposed to take care of your obligations. That's all a part of being the man that you have to be, to be in this knowledge of the scriptures, man. Okay, you gotta take care of business. Just because society is going to end, that is not an excuse either to just sit around and do nothing. And again, I want to talk about these things because it needs to be talked about. We have to tie all this together when it comes to the scriptures. We can't just only talk about the scriptures and never talk about applying them and how it relates to real life. But let's see. I think there's a little bit more on this I want to cover, and that's probably about it. Let me see.
And I ain't even talking about black people. Listen, think about it like this. If there was systemic racism based off a race, right? Then why are white people literally slightly above us when it comes to the amount of money that they make per household? Why are the majority of white people the ones that's on federal government programs? Why are they the ones that's the biggest welfare recipients? Where is it at? How come it's not benefiting them? Why they not working in their own best interest? Why are the ones that's making the most per household Asian and Indian? Why they not holding them back? What?
That's true. And I believe that the Asian and Indians, they see America for what it is, a great whore, like the scriptures say. They see this place as Babylon as the great whore. They just in to get what they need to get. Proverbially speaking, excuse my language, but they here to get a nut and just leave. Proverbially speaking. So they come here, they set up their businesses. And normally in our neighborhoods, by the way, in the so-called, black neighborhoods and communities, they set up businesses, make their money, and don't care about this place. You know, everybody else, you get so tied up in, you know, stuff like quote unquote systemic racism, and what it does is just make you a sluggard. You accept that, oh well, since there's racism or since I'm black, I can't do this. A lot of people don't explicitly say that, but that's their energy. That's what they believe. Therefore, uh, they don't work hard to accomplish certain goals because they believe that they can't do it because they're so-called race. And it's no different from us as being in the knowledge. Don't think just because you're in the knowledge you can't do certain things. You can. The standard is the statute, laws, and commandments. If you're not breaking the statute, laws, and commandments, you know, and not just, you know, don't think about it from a physical standpoint, spiritually too. If you're accumulating funds to go trick off, even though you might not physically, in a sense, be breaking a commandment from the physical commandments, like you keeping a dietary law and you keeping the feast days and you're not putting your hands on a woman or nothing like that. But spiritually, you know, deep down, you really only doing it for something that would spiritually keep the, you know, break the commandments, then you still going off. But outside of that, I mean, as long as you're not breaking the commandments, you're not going off, man. You know, these are different things that you should be, you should be trying to empower yourself to do, is to be able to provide and, you know, make money in society, get a better job, move up, start a business, do well in your business, work for yourself. You know, of course, these things are not going to bring rulership. Everything is not going to go down until Yahushua comes back, but at least you'll be a little bit more comfortable in this crazy place, in this captivity. There's nothing wrong with being more comfortable in this captivity. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You can't say one man is and that's another thing. Like, there's a brother that I know. He told me about somebody else he met in Walmart. He's a brother in the knowledge. Both of them are. The brother I know and the brother that he saw that he saw in Walmart that he met. So the brother in Walmart that works there, that's where he saw. I mean, he works there. That's how he saw him there. So the brother that works in Walmart told the brother that I know, he was like, yeah, so, well, first, let me say this. The brother that I know, he asked the brother that works in Walmart, yo, so how things been? You know, blase, do you plan on, you know, working here or, you know, what's your plans with that? And the brother that works at Walmart said, yeah, well, I just plan on working here because I'm focusing on the scriptures, so I ain't really trying to do nothing else. And that's a wild take, because brothers really think that they have to, you know, diminish themselves to a certain job because it's going to affect their walk. Nah, man, like, there's enough time in the day to focus on the scriptures and read and continue to learn and grow in the spirit, but still be able to make your money. Like, you can move up, you can do those things. If somebody telling you otherwise, it's because they just scared to do it themselves. Okay, brothers get into knowledge and they be scared to do these things. They're scared to start a business. I'm just keeping it a buck with you. They scared. They don't know how business works. They just assume that if you start a business, you just going off, just that in itself. Because you want to make money and you don't want to be in lack, you know, you going off. Or if you want to have money, and just in case this society don't end in 20 years, and you want to make money, there's nothing wrong with that. But they assume that those things, because a lot of us, we bring in our different insecurities and our lack of knowledge of finances and money. We bring that to us and trying to use in the knowledge, and we trying to use the scriptures to justify it. Okay, and that's it's just not how it works. Okay, nothing in the scriptures. There were plenty men of renown that, you know, made a lot of money, had a lot of money, like Abraham, like King David and King Solomon, like Job. That's just a very few examples, but of course we can go into a lot more. Now, of course, there were a lot of men that did not have a lot at all. Yahushua, you know, he was focused only on the ministry and the miracles, but we not Yahushua. Okay, we not Yahushua, and we live in a different world now. Do I mean that from a standpoint of the scriptures, keeping the statute, laws, commandments? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that this place here in America or wherever you live at, this whole society, not just America, this whole society is different now. Things are a lot more expensive, and you have to be able to work and do certain things now to be able to provide for your family. Okay, and it's just getting worse and worse. So those that ain't with it, man, you just, you just gonna be lost, man. You either get right or get left, right? So, I mean, it is what it is on that. So again, to be clear, is there systemic, quote unquote, systemic racism? Yes. But in relation to, should you let that stop you? The answer is no. That's all I'm trying to get at here. And I think that's pretty much it. Let me see what else the brother got to say.
Why did we pass the Asian hate crime bill? You know why? It's about this. It's about cultural norms. Tell me what is systemic racism in and why it's not working for them, but it's only working against us.
Yeah, it sounds like an excuse. Because once somebody gets past it, they're like, okay, the excuse is gone.
Well, let's say that it is, right? Let's say hypothetically that it's really a thing. Let's substantiate that argument. Then what?
You fight the system.
How?
You move.
You know what you do? You win. Listen, the biggest thing that they can do for you.
That's true. That's very true. So instead of understanding the system is flawed and doing nothing, you should just win. That's how you combat the system. And again, about the other nations, they understand this place is a whore. They're not worried about voting and all these different things that people here worry about. They just come in to make their money and provide and take our money and put it in their own communities and provide for themselves. Okay. And I'm not even saying that you got to do anything wrong. Again, I'm an advocate of keeping the statute, laws, and commandments. So all I'm saying here is that having the same mindset that this place is a whore. Okay. Those people that, because I had a sister literally tell me that you shouldn't start a business in this captivity. She literally told me that. She was like, nobody should be starting a business. Maybe some like on the side or something, but nobody should be really starting a business in this captivity. These are types of things and doctrines that our people are saying. Again, this was in the knowledge now. I'm not talking about just somebody, on the street. It's somebody that, been in the knowledge for years. That's what she told me. At least on social media. That's what she told me, though. So most of those people like that, they're really the ones that idolize money or take money too serious. When you understand what money is, just a tool. Me personally, I don't look at it from an emotional standpoint like other people do. If you say something like that and you don't tie it to the statute, laws, commandments, it tells me that you're the one putting money on the pedestal, not me, because I have a business. You're the one that's putting money on the pedestal because you think it's so important that you can't get it. It's going to interfere with your walk, But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to touch on the differences between racism and rulership, and that there's nothing wrong, especially the brothers. This is mainly for you too. So I really should have been addressing that. This is really mainly for the brothers, but you should be focusing on, what they call here bag chasing, in the bag. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're not going off. Okay. Start a business. Try to succeed in the business. You have to make sacrifices. Wake up earlier. Start saying no. Saying no to these women. Saying no to so-called friends, even if they're in the knowledge or not. Be isolated to yourself. Sometimes you got to be by yourself. Stop worrying about being in groups all the time. You can't do that a lot of times and still succeed. Don't be scared to be by yourself. Some of your brothers that are, only children, they probably used to it. But if you got siblings, maybe you're not used to it, or you were popular in college and high school and all that, you used to being around people. Sometimes you can't do that and level up. Don't be scared of that. Make the changes that you need to make. Take some time out to yourself and, make the moves that you need to make. And the brother's got specific questions on that. I'm still a young man myself. I'm only in my 30s, so I can provide a certain perspective to you, but I'm not claiming to know everything either. But if brothers have questions, they can ask. But that's pretty much it. Lord willing, this was edifying. It's a little bit different, but I do want to touch on certain topics like this here and there. But that's pretty much it. Until next time, I bid everyone a mighty shalom.